In this video, let us discuss about the use of super in Java. See this class, public class person. We have three instance variables, name, age, and gender, and it has a constructor. It has a method display details. This method will print the name, age, and gender of a person. Okay. So now let us have another class employee. This class extends person. So employee is a subclass and person is a superclass. Inside employee class we have the instance variables id and designation. So we have a employee constructor also. Now we have a class inheritance demo, which actually in this class inside main method we create the employee object instance. At line number 7 we create the employee object and we assign values to the instance variables. The variable name, age, and gender are actually the members of superclass person, but since employee class is a subclass, it inherits all these variables. So we can assign values to them, and we assign values to ID and designation also. And we call the display details method. This method also a member of person class, but since employee is a subclass of person class, this class employee class inherits this method also. So this method also a part of this employee class now. So we are able to call this method display details. Let us run this code and see the output now. Now it prints the name, age, and gender. Okay. So now what we can do, we inside the person constructor we use a system.out.println so that we can print inside the constructor system.out.println, and we print inside person class constructor. Okay, so let's print that inside person class constructor. Okay, so now we also have this sysout inside the employee class constructor, and we print inside employee class constructor. Now inside this employee class constructor we can also write super. It actually calls the constructor of the person class. Okay, so let us run this code and see the output now. Now you can see the output, like it prints inside person class constructor inside employee class constructor. That means when you create a employee object, employee constructor is called. Inside employee constructor we have super, so it will call the person class constructor. Okay, so now we can see, I just comment this super and again run this code. You can notice that this time also the person class constructor is called. See now in this case also inside person class constructor is printed. This is because Java by default it will include the call to the superclass constructor, okay, in the subclass constructor. So inside the subclass constructor, Java will include a call to the superclass constructor. That's why we are able to see this printout. Okay, so now let us introduce a parameterized constructor in the person class as well as the employee class. So let us do that thing. Public person. Okay, so now There is one easier way of including a constructor. So in the eclipse, right? So right click this eclipse. So what we can do is we can simply remove this and right click it and choose source and generate constructor using fields. So this will display all the instance variables and they are all selected now. So we can simply click OK so that yeah, parameterized constructor is included in this case. Okay. So now it's the same way we can also include a parameterized constructor inside the employee class. So right click the employee class and select source, then generate constructor using fields. So all the two variables are selected now. So click OK now. Now the employee class constructor parameterized constructor is also included. Now what we can do inside the employee parameterized constructor, there is a call to super. What we do is we will call the superclass parameterized constructor. So how to call that? So in order to call that, what we can do, we have to have this employee constructor. We have to do some modification to employee constructor like string name, comma, int age, comma, string gender. Okay. So now what we need to pass these name, age, and gender to the super class constructor. That is, you have to pass these values name, age, and gender. Okay. So this will call the superclass parameterized constructor, and these parameters are passed. These arguments, right? These arguments are passed to the superclass parameterized constructor. Okay. Now let us do one more change in the inheritance demo class. So what change we have to make in the inheritance demo class? We have to comment all these line number 8 to line number 13, right? We don't need this. Instead we have to use the constructor. Also you can comment the m7 line number 7. So instead of that we can call the parameterized constructor employee equal to new employee. Then now we have to pass the values to the constructor. That is, we have to pass name as John, comma, age 25, comma, gender as male, comma, then ID as 101, comma, designation as developer. Okay, so now we have passed these values. Okay, so now let us run this code and see the output now. So let us run this code now. See, you can see that name John, age 25, gender male, all printed because we call the display details method. So one thing you want to do this code is we have to add a display details method in the employee class as well in order to print the ID and designation because it is not printed now. So let us include that method public void display details. Okay, so now let us print id and this one id and designation. So how to print that? We can use this is out here also. So this is out id, id, we have to print id, then we print designation, designation we print. So now let us run this code once again. What we have done now, we have a public void display details method we have declared inside the employee class to print ID and designation. So we also have the display details method inside the person class, okay, which displays name, age, and gender. Now let us run this inheritance demo and see the output now. See, this time only ID and developer ID and designation is printed. Now name, age, gender is not printed because when you call the display details method of the employee object, the superclass method is not called. Rather, the subclass method, display details method is called. So how to print the name, age, and gender also? To do that, we can do one change, make one change inside the display details class, right? By we can use super. Super is a keyword. We can use super to access the member of the super class. We can call the display details method of the super class using super dot display details, which calls the display details method of the super class, and that print all the variables like name, age, and gender. So now we can print all the values. Okay, so let us run this code and see the output. Now let us run this code. Now we can see name, age, gender, ID, designation, everything is printed. So in this video we have seen how to use super. So one way is we can call the superclass constructor from the subclass constructor. That is one way. Another way of usage is we can access the superclass members using super keyword. One important thing would like to mention here is when you use constructor, when you call the superclass constructor inside the subclass constructor, that call should be the first statement in your constructor. If you make it as a if it should be the first statement, otherwise you will get compilation error. See, I just try to call this here. See what is the message we are getting. See, we get the compilation error like constructor call must be the first statement in a constructor. Okay, so we have to uncomment this. That is, your superclass constructor call should be the first statement in the subclass constructor. Okay, so now we have completed this video. So in this video we have seen the use of super.